All right, let's continue looking at some of these characteristics. Leaf basics. We're going to be focusing on the overall processes that you can find in these different parts of the leaf. Okay? Now we know what happens in the leaf. We know that this is where photosynthesis occurs within the plant. So all plants need leaves for photosynthesis to occur. This is where your chloroplasts are going to be contained, where chlorophyll is going to be able to absorb that sunlight, process it, make those sugars or starches, and then oxygen is going to be the byproduct. This is all happening within the leaf, the structure of the leaf. So let's look at some of these structures. Mesophyll, okay, is a part or are parts of the leaf where the chloroplasts are contained. This is the actual site where photosynthesis is going to occur with inside the leaf. This mesophyll material. The mesophyll section is going to be where the palisade parenchyma cells are. Remember, we've talked about parenchyma cells a little bit earlier. So this mesophyll part of the leaf, this is the area of the cells located just beneath the dermis, the top layer of the leaf. Okay, the part that faces the sun. All right, that's why that part of the leaf has that darker green, because of the chlorophyll that is encased with all of those chloroplasts in that mesophyll, in that palisade layer, right underneath the dermis of the leaf. Okay, our veins, remember our vascular tissue that make our veins for our plants, are going to be housed within this mesophyll layer as well. Remember the types of vein patterns. We've looked at that before when we talked about monocots versus dicots. You have your parallel veins, or you have your net-like veins. Remember, your parallel veins are going to be your monocots. These are going to be slender leaves. The veins run parallel from base to tip of the leaf. And then your net-like veins are going to be for your dicots, and they can branch out in a more net pattern. Okay, and once again, they come in through the stem, the apical stem of the leaf, and they move into the leaf itself. Both of these patterns are still made up of the same type of vascular tissue, still made up of xylem and phloem. Okay, so let's look at our picture of our leaf one more time. The mesophyll, okay, the mesophyll layer is part of this, is what makes up this parenchyma parts, okay, this mesophyll layer. This is where your palisade parenchyma is going to be. You can see the little chloroplasts that make up, that are found in this layer. Notice that it is very close to, or it is the layer right underneath the epidermis, the skin tissue of the leaf. And then within this mesophyll layer, you have the veins, the vascular tissue, okay, that is going to be flowing through to carry, xylem carrying the water and dissolved minerals, phloem carrying food stores or food particles. All right. Now, transpiration, the last thing we're going to look at with our leaves. Remember what transpiration is. This is where water loss will occur when the stomata, and let's go back to our picture, the stomata, remember those are the holes in the upper and lower parts of the leaf, and they're the openings that allow for gas exchange to occur, that allow for gases to enter and leave the leaf. And remember, those gases are used for photosynthesis, like carbon dioxide. Oxygen is going to be released as a byproduct through those holes, through those stoma, but also water vapor can be released through those stoma. Remember, the guard cells is what keep them closed or keep them open. So this is where transpiration is going to occur. Why you would want water loss to occur? Here's the big thing. If you have water vapor that escapes the leaf, that the stoma open and the water vapor leaves the leaf, this actually helps create or regulate water pressure. Okay, the opening and closing of those guard cells of the stoma help regulate water pressure. And why that's important is because think about how tall some of these plants are. Some of the larger trees, okay, they can be hundreds of feet tall. How in the world is water going to get from the roots down into the soil? And some of those roots might extend 20 feet into the soil. How is water going to get from there all the way up the trunk of the tree to the very top of the tree where leaves are located? Okay, and one way that's the one way it's going to work is through water pressure and maintaining water pressure. You can increase water pressure, and that will help increase the flow of water from the base to the top. When water vapor escapes or is let out through the stoma, that helps pull extra water up through the xylem, so the water can be accessed by the leaves at the very tops of the plant. Okay, when you have high water pressure, your guard cells are going to be closed. Okay, that way that's going to help build up that water pressure, and then as they open, that releases that water vapor, and that's how that pull of water will move from the roots to the upper parts of the tree where the leaves are located. And then lower water pressure, obviously, once that pressure goes down and water flow diminishes, and those guard cells are open, your water pressure will close to lower the water pressure and build it up again, and the process starts all over. All right, now we focused on looking at fruits and seeds in one of the previous videos, dicots and monocots. Remember our angiosperms. Let's look at this flower. Okay, our angiosperms are going to be our flowering plants. We've covered the parts of the flower before in class, but let's look at it one more time. Remember, the flower is the basic structure of reproduction for our angiosperms. So every plant that produces a flower, from the grasses on the ground to the larger trees that are found in this area, in this temperate biome, they're going to use flowers as their basic reproductive cycle. So the basic parts of your flower, remember your petals, they are colored, reds and pinks and blues and yellows, okay, and that color is kind of like a window sign, a flashing window sign that is going to attract those pollinators. It'll produce nectar, which is the sugary liquid that is also going to be an attractor for those pollinators. Okay, then you get to the reproductive parts, the actual part that matters for the flower. You have the pistil. Right, it includes the stigma, style, and ovaries. Inside the ovaries are the ovules, or the female gametes. Then you have the stamens, okay, with the anthers and filaments, and then on the anthers is where the pollen is going to be produced, and that is the male gametes. Okay, pollinators will come along. They will transfer your pollen from one flower to another flower of that species. Once the pollen connects to the stigma, the sticky tip of the pistil, then it is transferred down to the ovules. You have pollination, fertilization. You get seeds that are produced, and then those seeds might form fruits. Fruits might form around them. Maybe they don't, depending on the type of angiosperm. But then you have your new plant that is able to grow and germinate. The receptacle is just the tip of the stem where the flower is attaching to the stem. Remember the sepals, before a flower has bloomed, it is in the form of a bud, and it is encapsulated or enclosed by these sepals for protective reasonings, and then your leaves for photosynthesis and so forth. These are the structures. We've looked at them before, but here they are again. Why petals are important and what fruits do. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into seeds now. We know that you have monocots and dicots. We've looked at the basic structure of a seed. But let's get into these seeds a little bit more. We know the seed is going to be a part of the embryo, the genetic material, plus a food source to allow the seed to germinate. Then once germination has occurred and leaves are produced, it can go through its own photosynthesis. Seeds can be encapsulated or contained within a fruit, okay, that ripened ovary. Examples: apples, grapes, oranges. That's pretty straightforward. Peas, corns, cucumbers, tomatoes. Now, even though we think of some of these as some of these are our vegetables, they also are examples of fruit-based structures. Okay, but once your fruit develops, your flower will die away. Okay, and that will allow the seeds to develop. And then how seed dispersal works. We've looked at this before, but let's look at it again. Remember, it helps with seeds being dispersed away from the parent plant because that reduces competition for water, for nutrients, for sunlight. Okay, so one of the biggest dispersal processes is by animals. Animals eat the fruit, they carry it away. It will not be digested because the seed coat protects from digestion, and then it will be dropped through excretion in a different location. Wind and water are also important. Okay, if the seeds have developed adaptations to be carried by the wind, like little propellers, little wings, okay, then wind will be a big aid in that. And then water, if they have air pockets within the seed that allow them to float, then water can carry as well. Now, seed germination. Here's something we haven't looked at yet. Okay, and this is a decent picture because it lets you see the germination process. A first root will be produced to allow it to access water and nutrients, and then you see your first leaf produced, or leaves, depending on if it's a dicot or monocot. Okay, but then as that stem eventually does produce that first leaf, that's where photosynthesis can occur. And then once photosynthesis starts occurring, the excess food source would probably be gone within the seed. The plant is able to go through photosynthesis and make its own food. And then you no longer will have germination, you'll have just the regular growth of the plant itself. All right, now, there will be a time of what we call dormancy, where the embryo might be mature and ready for germination, but it's not actively growing until it senses through chemical electrodes within the genetics part of the seed that the location is right, the temperature is right, there's enough moisture, ideal growth conditions, and then that's when those are going to be environmental triggers. That's when these triggers will trigger the seed to move into germination. Now, there are going to be certain seed adaptations that that different species might have for their particular seed. Okay, for example, an apple seed requires freezing temperatures to occur before that seed gets an environmental trigger to start germinating. There are some seeds that might have to pass through a digestive tract and be exposed to harsh acidic chemicals before it will start to germinate. Certain seeds, like coconut seeds, they have to be exposed to a large amount of salt water before they start to germinate. So these are some requirements, okay, that would have to occur before these seeds would germinate. So our conifer trees, our pines, and our evergreens, some of them have to be exposed to forest fires, and then once the cones are exposed to forest fires, that opens up the seed. The seed recognizes that large amount of heat in a short amount of time, and then it starts to germinate. So some of these particular seeds, these adaptations, these seeds might go extremely long periods of time before they pass through these requirements to cause them to germinate. Not all seeds are that way, but there are a few, and those are some examples that are. Now, in this next part, we're going to be getting into responses, how plants respond to wind and sunlight movement, and so forth.